radicalness of these anti-Muslim extremists. And again, we're talking about Pamela Geller, we're talking about Frank Gaffney, we're talking about other people who have been out there for a long time, and we've known about, and they sort of percolate up to the surface every once in a while when one of their conspiracy theories gets latched onto by a more respectable person. We're now seeing them operate in more influential circles than we've really ever seen them before. As far as you can tell, is this sort of a high watermark for them in terms of how much access they get to mainstream conservatives?
I hope so. I hope so. For years, they were kind of marginally tolerated, if that. When they made presentations and meetings around Washington, D.C., people would check their BlackBerry or kind of, talk and whisper amongst themselves and figure out what they're going to have for lunch. But now these guys, they've found an issue, and just as you said in the beginning, they're not opposed to the mosque at ground zero per se. They're opposed to any mosque anywhere. They're opposed to Muslims serving their country. They're opposed to Islam, period. And they just happen to have latched on this issue, and because it's the silly season right before the elections, unfortunately some were duped into getting involved in this issue, but thank God the grown-ups have come back into the room, and people like Governor Christie and Ted Olson, who happened to have lost his wife on 9/11, are standing up and saying, enough, we've got to stop this. We have a constitution, we have individual rights of religious liberty, and all Americans should be able to practice those rights freely.
Suhail, let me just ask you one last question about sort of, I guess, responsibility in a time like this. George W. Bush spoke publicly at a time of incredible national emotion on the issue of religion after 9/11, calling for essentially tolerance and respect and for distinguishing between radicals who do things in the name of Islam and people who happen to be Muslims who practice their faith in a peaceful way. George W. Bush seems to be staying out of this argument right now. I personally was surprised to see Karen Hughes, who had been such a visible figure in his administration in terms of reaching out to the Muslim world, decide that she wanted this cultural center moved as well. Do you expect that George W. Bush may change his mind about this, or that somebody else quite highly ranking from the Bush administration might step in and try to be an adult here?
I can't tell and predict what will happen. I can tell you that a lot of people from the Bush administration, people like former Solicitor General Ted Olson, Jim Glassman, who was the head of our diplomacy at the State Department, has come out and said, this is not only un-American, but this is giving us a black eye around the world. Other people, and as I said, people like Governor Christie, future heroes within American politics, are standing up and saying this is enough. And that gives me great hope that, again, our democracy, our Constitution will be protected in the days ahead.
Suhail Kahn, chairman of the Conservative Inclusion Coalition, a former aide in George W. Bush's administration, a guy who I'm sure gets no shortage of grief just for being on this show, which makes me very grateful. Suhail, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thank you, Rachel.
So the scaring white people business also has a thriving franchise in Washington. Tea Partiers, if you are planning to go to the big rally in D.C. on Saturday to reclaim the I Have a Dream March as if it was a conservative enterprise, don't go wandering all over town unless you want to confront that which scares white people. Washington Post columnist and MSNBC contributor Gene Robinson joins us next.